Guaranteed to be a YouTube first, this is a comparison between the Sony Digital Paper CP1 and the Fujitsu Quaderno A5. Let's check it out. A lot of device manufacturers have done this in the past, and a lot of other manufacturers of other things too. Clothing, cars, appliances, a lot of companies white label and a lot of companies use existing technology and improve on it. This here on the left is the Sony DPT CP1, and this is the Quaderno by Fujitsu. This is a 2018 model, and this is a brand new 2020 model. They're very, very similar in regards to using the same stylus, the same screens. They do have some different things on the software, and they have a different backing on the Quaderno. The Quaderno is a more refined, more brand new device that just came out in 2020. They're both running English as well. So in terms of the home screen, they really don't have one. It's pretty much like each other where they just have a list of the documents. Nothing special there, nothing to write home about. If you do press the top button, you will get some options, but you'll notice there's a few more options on the Fujitsu. So you have return a document, all documents, all folders, notes, create note, and settings. What they have added on the Fujitsu, as well as a different font, you can see here the lines are a lot thinner and it's actually a little bit more crisp than on the DPT. You have the import from ScanSnap. Now, if you look at the overlaying footage here, ScanSnap is an actual device that you can get from Fujitsu, and it's used to do various scanning things, but unless you have that physical product in your possession, this isn't going to be too useful to you. But in a lot of professional settings in some markets, they do have this device readily available, which is why they've integrated it into this device. They also have Schedule, which the Sony does not have. Now, the Schedule is quite nice, and you can see here, it has a lot of elements that you can actually touch. This is the sample though, but if we go over to the real one, right here, you'll see that it's a calendar, but it's not just a regular PDF. You can actually click on everything individually, and it is completely interactable. So although you can write on it like a PDF and erase and do all your highlighting because it has all those elements on the screen, you can go deeper than that. Once you're inside here, you can actually do all your writing on the screen. You can say note, important, put a star, little smiley face, and then we'll go back, and now we have our notes saved to the individual dates. You can do a lot of things here too. You can do week, you can do month, and you can select all the different elements on the screen. Now the top bar does remain the same, in which case you have insert new page, page flow, two-page spread, etc. Even display documents side by side, which we will show you in a second. But this is very nice because it's kind of just on this device. If you try the same thing on the Sony, it just recognizes it as a full PDF and it's not interactable. So Fujitsu has done some proprietary work on the operating system and the overall software to make this thing their own. Now, if you go to settings, and you can see the settings was slightly different, you do have a couple things here. So they both have NFC, they both have Bluetooth, they both have Wi-Fi. That just remains the same across the board. If you go to system settings, you have pen calibration, limit editing annotations, note template, screen lock, all that stuff is the same. Now you do have initialized digital paper and initialized device, but you don't have control server settings. Control server settings is actually very useful for professional settings. You can see here, settings for linking digital paper to a system. So you can have the digital paper just on an isolated system if you're in like a law firm, or you're doing government work or something that requires a high level of security. You can actually do that on the DPT, but you can't do that on the Fujitsu. Now, actually going back, if you go to screen lock, they both have the ability to do the NFC card release settings. What that basically means is if you assign the NFC communication to a key card, the only way to access this is if you were to tap the key card on the NFC logo on each respective device, then you can get into the device. Otherwise, you can just use the lock password, in which case it's just a password. If you go to create a new note, you'll notice that the Fujitsu has one extra background that the Sony does not. You can see there's no way to get there. You have the to-do list. Now when you go over to the to-do list and then press OK, this is what shows up. It is a to-do list, so is this enough to make you choose the Fujitsu over the Sony? Not necessarily if you're just counting backgrounds, but it is nice to have this on there because you can write, groceries, go to the store, pick up laundry, etc., check everything off, write your memo, etc. And you can add new pages and continue on with the to-do list background. Now, I must note, both of these don't have the ability to change the note template once you start. Every time, you have to go back to create new note in order to change and choose another background, like so. So make sure you choose the background that is correct to what you're going to do right out of the gates. In terms of what the note-taking brings to the table, they're identical in their settings, as you can see right here. So we'll just tap out of there. And then they're also, if you haven't noticed by now, we're able to use the same pen across the board because they're both using the same OEM manufacturer for the technology. So if we draw a box in the middle of the screen like this, we can do a couple things. Now we can use the zoom key right here, click the center of the box and it zooms in. We can do that on both of these. This one's a rectangle, it's still a box. Now you'll see on the Sony, if we try to zoom in anymore, we can't. We can move this around, that's totally fine, but we can't actually zoom in anymore. The Fujitsu, we can move it around all the same, but we can actually zoom in to the box to a number of hundreds of %. And why this is useful is because you can make extremely detailed drawings and change all of your pen settings on the fly, like so. And then when you zoom out, you can see you've actually achieved the level of detail and more fine of a pen that you would ever have achieved using the pen settings. You can't actually draw that small unless you zoom in, but this allows you to do that. The DPT, sure, you can go to that zoom level like that, but then once you're out, you're out. You can go into the zoom again, circle where you want to zoom and super zoom in on it, but you don't have the ability to pinch and zoom, so you can't alter what you're drawing kind of live on the fly. If I wanted to zoom in and out, I can't do that, but I do have that level of control on the Fujitsu, so I can make a line, zoom in, draw another line, zoom in. You do have that level of finesse that this device gives you. Now, switching back and forth between the stylus layer and the capacitive layer actually takes a little bit of time, like some devices do when you do split screen, so you do have to be patient when you're doing that. But this allows you to get into that real nooks and crannies of detail that the Sony would not originally have allowed you to do. Both of these devices do this. This is display documents side by side. So basically you autonomously use the left and the right split screen style, and you can choose any document you want on any side. So you can do Notepad on this side. You see I had a couple boxes there, or you can do scheduler and your PDFs and your medical documents on that side. So the beauty is that you can actually open two different things at the same time. And that gives you the ability to have, say, your medical documents on this side and you take your notes on this side. So it's a very useful application. So obviously using the DPT CP1 as a benchmark, because they're both using the same OEM manufacturer, the new 2020 Fujitsu is new. It has a new shell on the back, it has brand new software and UI, it has new apps integrated like Schedule, ScanSnap, the digital paper Fujitsu app from their website, and it's just overall refined. It is a little bit more snappy and all of the text is sharper across the entire device when you look at menus and whatnot. Everything is just more sharp, more clean, and if you compare them side by side to the naked eye, the Sony DPT is a little bit more fuzzy if you had to put them on the same pedestal. So we would recommend the Fujitsu over the DPT CP1. It's just doing everything that this device can do, although limiting. It's just doing it better. It's breathing new life into the note-taking world. So I hope this shows you a little bit of a comparison between these two, and if you guys have any other questions, let us know. For goodyreader.com, in a comparison of two awesome digital note-taking devices, this is Peter.